The dark beach, the silence of the night, the separations, and the sounds of the waves heralded the beginning of a terrible story. The moon was illuminating the beach with faint light through the gaps in the clouds, but this system created a dark and fading atmosphere. Max, a young man, was wandering around this beach that was left only to him, and that he was thinking of leaving as soon as possible. He noticed that an intensity across the moon caught his attention. When he approached with curiosity, he discovered an old and rusty tin can among the sand. When the box was opened, an old diary and several photographs were revealed. When he picked up the diary, he saw that its pages were full of spilled ink and shaky writing. Today, there was a strange feeling on the beach. I felt like someone was watching me, but there was no one there. This strange thing continued throughout the night. He was doing something, but I can't understand what's going on. Strange things are happening on the beach. I have to stay here for a long time. As Max examines the diary, the howling of the wind increases and there is a ripple everywhere. He paused for a moment, examining the information but seeing nothing. However, a strange anxiety began inside him. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound coming from the depths of the beach. At first it felt like he was injured, but then he realized he was closer. The voice was calling him, as if whispering. Panicking, Max started to run, but the voice pretended to follow him. A movement of the wrinkles of the eyes seemed to move, but it was not clear what it was. Finally, he stood breathless in the middle of the dark beach. He could no longer hear any sound, but the surroundings were not empty. The darkness stretching across the sand appeared before his eyes and began to engulf him. Struggling in fear, Max was dragged deeper into the beach. The last image in his eyes, conveying his last breath, was an old diary in the distribution of the months. In the morning, the beach became quiet and calm. However, despite Max's permission, no trace was found. It was said that no one dared to go to the beach that day, and some still wonder if there is a presence deep within the dark beach and what is calling it. Max's disappearance became the talk of the town and became a horror story among people. But the real secrets may still remain hidden deep beneath the beach. Who knows, maybe one day the truth will come to light and the secret of the dark beach will be revealed. Years passed and the dark secrets of the beach were forgotten. But one day, Emily, one of the town's new residents, found an old diary during a walk on the beach. When she read the writings inside, her curiosity grew and she decided to conduct her own investigation to solve the mystery behind Max's disappearance. Emily talked to locals and tried to learn more about the beach's history. However, most people only had hearsay information as years had passed since the incident. With determination, Emily stepped deeper into the beach. As she walked among the sands reflecting in the moonlight, she felt surrounded by a strange feeling. His eyes sensed the presence of something in the darkness, but he could not see clearly what it was. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound coming from the depths of the beach. She was afraid at first, but then she gathered her courage and went after the voice. The voice felt like it was calling her somewhere, and Emily quickened her pace in curiosity. Finally, he reached an ancient cave in the middle of the dark beach. When she stood at the entrance of the cave, she felt the deep silence inside, but strange sounds coming from inside encouraged him to explore further. Emily entered the cave, taking her steps carefully. As she moved among the dark and damp walls, she felt her heart beating rapidly. After a while, she noticed something moving inside the cave. While she was trying to get her eyes used to the darkness, she saw a light shining in the depths of the cave. As she approached, she realized that the source of the light was Max's lost diary. When she took the diary and leafed through its pages, she found clues that would solve the secret of the dark beach. But suddenly, she encountered dark figures surrounding her. Dark hands appeared on the cave walls, reaching towards him. Emily backed away in fear, but the dark figures continued to surround her. Finally, she disappeared, pulling him deeper into the dark beach. Only Max's old diary is left behind, the only witness to the beach's dark secrets. When the townspeople heard about Emily's disappearance, they began a search in fear and anxiety. However, they found no sign of either Emily or Max. From that day on, going deep into the dark beach was avoided and became a legend. However, some still claim that there is a mysterious being beneath that beach, and those who cannot resist its call never return. Who knows, maybe one day the truth will come out and the secrets of the dark beach will be revealed. But now, only fear and uncertainty reign in that place. Sure enough, here's a story set in a scary company. On the edge of town stood an old and dilapidated circus building. This place, where festivities took place under bright lights many years ago, was now abandoned and forgotten. However, he was still feared by the people around him. According to stories, strange events took place in the circus, and some claimed that the place was cursed. One night, a brave group of young people gathered together to investigate the circus building and test the legends. Their goal was to see if something really happened in the circus. The young people silently moved towards the ruined entrance of the circus. Their hearts began to race when they saw the worn sign shining in the moonlight. But curiosity and excitement continued to push them forward. Once they stepped inside, they immediately felt something strange. There was a strange electric feeling in the air, and the inside of the circus was filled with eerie silence. There were torn posters and old circus paraphernalia on the walls, but everything had been ruined by time. The group moved forward cautiously, rummaging through old clown costumes when one of them suddenly trembled. "There's something strange here," he said, his eyes darting around. Suddenly, they heard a noise. The entire group shuddered and looked at each other. The noise was a crunching sound coming from the wreckage of the circus. Each of them held their breath and looked around carefully. Then, they saw a figure in the shadow. It was vague at first, but it started to become clearer. It was a figure dressed like a clown, his face covered by a torn mask. His costume was worn and stained, but his eyes were bright and scary. The young people retreated in horror, but the figure began to approach them. His steps were slow and menacing, his eyes piercing. The group panicked and started to run away, but the inside of the circus was like a maze and the way out was complicated to find. At every corner, they encountered a new nightmare. Old circus props seemed to come to life. The clowns' masks and toys seemed to breathe. The young people's hearts were beating fast and their feet were shaking. Finally, the group made it to the roof of the circus. From there, they could see fires burning below and dark figures moving around. They hugged each other with their hands, shaking with fear, and asked for help. After a while, townspeople and police teams came to the circus building, but they couldn't find anything inside. The teenagers were missing, and there was no sign of what had happened inside the circus. After that day, the circus building was completely destroyed, and the townspeople tried to forget that cursed place. However, some think that what happened that night was real, and that the circus is still full of dark secrets. Who knows, maybe the spirit of the circus still roams that region. After a few days, townspeople and police continued their search around the circus building where the teenagers had disappeared. However, neither the young people nor the strange events inside the circus could find any trace. The town was shaken by the story of the missing teenagers. Legends said that the circus was cursed and that dark beings roamed within it. Although some people viewed these stories as superstitions, many people became afraid to even walk around the circus. After this incident, the townspeople began to forget about the circus over time. However, the scars of that dark night are still deeply etched for some. A few years later, locals agreed to build a park on the site of the old circus building. When the demolition process began, some people thought that something was hidden under the ruins of the old circus building, but what happened was never revealed. When the park was built, there was a sigh of relief among the townspeople. However, some still missed the old days of the circus and could not forget that cursed night. Today, there are still various speculations about what happened on the site of that old circus building. Some claim that the spirit of the circus still lurks there and wanders through the shadows at night, while others view these stories as mere horror-filled legends. However, those among the townspeople who remember that terrible night when the young people disappeared believe that the dark secrets of the circus are still there. And maybe, one day, the truth will come to light and the curse of the circus will end forever. After a while, the people living in the town realized that the terrible events they experienced began to be forgotten with the destruction of the circus. But some could not forget that night. They said the dark figures and strange sounds inside the circus still haunted their nightmares. One night, Mrs. Thompson, one of the oldest people in the town, dreamed of the terrible night when the young people disappeared. As he wandered among the ruined walls of the circus, he felt the shadows of dark beings hidden behind the masks of old clowns. When Mrs. Thompson was faced with deep darkness in her dream, she heard a voice whispering towards her, "The curse of the circus will endure forever." As soon as she woke up, Mrs. Thompson decided to remind the townspeople that the dark secrets of the circus were still alive. He wanted to tell them that what happened that night was not a dream, and that the spirit of the circus was still around. When the townspeople heard Mrs. Thompson's words, a wave of fear and anxiety washed over them. Some rejected these stories and saw them as mere superstitions. However, others began to believe that the curse of the circus was still around. From that day on, residents of the town avoided wandering around the circus' former location. Rumors spread that strange sounds were still heard at night on the site of the old circus. Some claimed that the spirits were still there and continued to summon the youth. The townspeople believed that even though years had passed since the young people disappeared, the curse of the circus was still alive. Maybe one day the truth would come to light and the curse of the circus would end forever. But now, the people of the town still bore the scars of that terrible night and could not forget the dark secrets of the circus. If you don't click on this video, you will miss a very nice horror story. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.